Over the years, the MLB has had moments that left fans holding their breath, hands on their heads, and jaws dropped. From the terrible moment when Kirby Pucket got his jaw shattered by a fastball, to the time when Saunders broke his arm while delivering a pitch, this video explores some of the most terrifying injuries ever seen in the history of Major League Baseball. These injuries are scary, severe, and definitely heartbreaking, so get ready as we unveil them. Bobby Valentine. On May 17, 1973, Bobby Valentine was making a play on a home run ball at Anaheim Stadium when his leg got caught up between two posts in the fence. Valentine, named the MVP of the Pioneer League at just 18, played under manager Tommy Lasorda, who became his mentor and lifelong friend. On the night of the incident, the Angels hosted that year's world champion Oakland A's at Anaheim Stadium, and as the game continued, baseman Dick Green came to bat and blasted a shot to deep center field. Seeing the shot, Valentine tracked the ball, ran to the fence, and leaped up in an attempt to snag the ball. Unfortunately for him, he missed it by less than an inch, and the ball went over the top of the fence. While this seemed like a simple maneuver, for Valentine, it was much worse because his leg had been caught up between two posts in the fence and tangled as he fell down to the ground. After the terrific fall, Valentine laid on the ground in intense pain. He had suffered from multiple leg fractures, making his accident one of the worst baseball injuries of the year, as well as a memorable one for all time. Valentine was eventually carried off the field and spent the rest of the year in two different leg casts. While he played other games after the incident, it's said that the bones in his ankle did not heal right, and he was never the same player again. While Valentine had a very painful experience, this next player suffered something worse. Snyder. In 2008, Arizona Diamondbacks put left fielder Eric Burns and catcher Snyder on the 15-day disabled list. While the first player had been removed because of a strained left hamstring, Snyder suffered a left testicular fracture. This incident happened after he was hit in the groin area by a foul tip. The club put him on the disabled list about an hour after the hit, and the next day, he underwent an MRI. It's said that after the Arizona Diamondbacks put Snyder out of the game, a nation of male sports fans was left disheartened. But luckily, this didn't last for long, because a few days later, it was announced that Snyder's injury would not require surgery and that he would be on the disabled list for only 15 days. Although most of the attention had been on Snyder's physical recovery, it was also noted that he could face some mental hurdles when it comes to taking his position behind the plate and putting himself once again in harm's way. While Snyder was able to return to the game just days after his injury, the story was not the same for this next player, Josias Manzanilio. Josias Manzanilio had a fractured testicle after he was struck in the groin by a line-off bat while pitching for the Seattle Mariners. Before the incident, Josias was allegedly not wearing a protective cup, which made the strike from Manny Ramirez's bat very disastrous, leaving him with ruptured testicles. But here's the scary part. While Josias's injury required immediate attention, he still managed to recover the baseball, threw out a runner at home plate, and then jogged off the field all by himself. It was later on that he had to undergo an emergency reconstructive surgery. Josias was put on the 15-day disabled list for surgery needed to repair a tear in his testicles, and sadly, his injured testicle had to be removed. This incident earned Josias the title of the most courageous player in Seattle Mariners history at the time, leaving him with a legacy to be remembered by many. Similar to how Josias couldn't make a full recovery, this next player also suffered the same fate. Dave Drabek. Dave Drabek was an American baseball player and a left-handed pitcher who played Major League Baseball for the San Diego Padres and the San Francisco Giants. On August 15, 1989, Dave broke his arm while delivering a pitch at Olympic Stadium. It's said that the humerus bone in his left arm snapped, leaving him in serious pain. As the humerus bone in Drabek's left arm snapped, the baseball flew off to the left and ended up in the Expos dugout down the first base line. But before it could even get there, Dave was already on his back, writhing in excruciating pain in front of the mound, trying to hold his left arm together with his right. According to Will Clark, who was the first person to reach Dave after the incident, the hit was, without a shadow of doubt, a definite crack. Will noted that the moment he heard the sound and saw Dave go down, he instantly knew it was something serious. Dave Drabek retired from baseball after the season, and sadly, following a cancer recurrence in 1991, his left arm was eventually amputated. Interestingly, following his baseball career, Dave became a motivational speaker and an author, writing books about his battles with cancer and his comeback attempt. Just like how Dave's hand injury caused him his career, this next player also has a similar story. Saunders. Tony Saunders, a former Major League Baseball pitcher, experienced one of the most devastating injuries in professional sports, not once, but twice, both while pitching. He fractured his humerus bone in his throwing arm, a catastrophic occurrence that ended his career. The first injury occurred on May 26, 1999, during a Tampa Bay Devil Rays game against the Texas Rangers. While delivering a pitch in the third inning, Saunders' arm broke mid-throw, causing him to collapse in immense pain on the mound. The horrifying incident left Saunders clutching his arm and screaming in pain. His fans and teammates were also left in shock. Doctors later confirmed that he had suffered a spiral fracture of the humerus, causing him to undergo surgery. He also began an extensive rehabilitation process to determine his return to the game. After over a year of rehabilitation, Saunders attempted a comeback, but tragedy struck again on August 24, 2000, during a minor league rehabilitation game. While Saunders was pitching in the third inning, his arm fractured once again in the same area, effectively ending his professional baseball career. This injury was similar to the first, causing him to immediately fall to the ground in pain. Although Saunders hoped to return to the major leagues, he was unable to make a full comeback, especially since he got the same injury twice. While Saunders' injury was shocking to many, this next player also suffered a similar fate: Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle is regarded by many as being one of the best players and sluggers of all time. He was an American League Most Valuable Player on 3 different occasions and one of the greatest offensive threats in baseball history. He is also the only player to hit 150 home runs from both sides of the plate. However, his thriving career was almost ruined after a knee injury that likely had a major impact on his legacy occurred in the 5th inning of Game 2 of the 1951 World Series. Mickey Mantle was a player who could almost do it all, and in this game, he was playing right field with veteran superstar Joe DiMaggio in center. After Willie Mays hit a fly ball to right center field, the two fielders converged, with Mantle hustling hard for it. According to him, he was running as hard as he could. In the process, Mantle slammed on his brakes, and when he did, his spikes got caught in an exposed drain pipe. He stated that immediately after this happened, something in his right knee tore as he went down in tremendous pain. It was later discovered that he had suffered a severely torn ligament. Although his injury was one that would have required immediate surgery today, back then, he was told to just let it heal on its own. Mantle eventually had multiple knee surgeries after this and had almost no cartilage in his knees by the time his career was over. Since he played the rest of his career with a torn or semi-torn ligament, Mantle always played with pain. However, interestingly, he was still good enough to hit 536 home runs and become one of the greatest of all time. While Mantle was still able to break records after his injury, this next player, sadly, could not. Ray Fosse. In 1970, Ray Fosse was injured in a collision with Pete Rose at home plate. This infamous collision between Rose and Fosse remains one of baseball's most controversial moments. It occurred during the 12th inning when Rose aggressively barreled into Fosse at home plate to score the game-winning run for the National League. Although the game led to a big win for Rose, many criticized it because of the devastating impact on Fosse's career. The collision between the duo resulted in Fosse suffering a separated and fractured shoulder, injuries that weren't even diagnosed until the following season. Sadly, while Fosse continued playing after the incident and even finished the 1970 season with a strong record, his performance and physical condition steadily declined. It was so bad that he was unable to hit more than 12 home runs in any of the 9 seasons he played after the incident. Since Fosse's separated and fractured shoulder wasn't discovered until the following season, the injury never healed properly. Even Fosse himself later admitted that his career trajectory was significantly altered by that one moment. Over the years, the player experienced chronic pain, arthritis, and multiple surgeries. It's said that he had 5 knee operations, 2 shoulder injuries that were never repaired, and also a stiff neck. Although Fosse claimed much of his pain was due to the wear and tear of catching, he also admitted the collision with Rose was a major factor that contributed to the end of his career. Similar to how Fosse's injury had a lasting effect on his career, this next player also suffered the same thing: Buster Posey. Buster Posey spent his entire 12-year Major League Baseball (MLB) career with the Giants from 2009 until his retirement at the conclusion of the 2021 season. He was an accomplished baseball player who also suffered several hurdles in his career, one of which was his collision with Scott Cousins. On the 25th of May 2011, Posey was involved in a collision that fractured his fibula and tore multiple ligaments. This happened during a game against the Florida Marlins. So it happened that at the bottom of the 12th inning, Marlins player Scott Cousins Cousins attempted to score the winning run. As he barreled toward home plate, Posey positioned himself to block the base, but unfortunately, he was slightly off balance while trying to catch a throw from right field. Cousins collided with him at full speed, resulting in Posey being violently knocked backward. The impact of this collision caused Posey to fracture his left fibula and tear multiple ligaments in his ankle. It also caused him to be sidelined for the remainder of the season. Surprisingly, Posey's determination to recover was remarkable as he returned stronger in 2012, leading the Giants to a World Series victory. He also earned the National League MVP award. Although Posey made a strong comeback, this next MLB player couldn't achieve this. Bryce Flory. Bryce Flory, a former Major League Baseball pitcher, sustained a severe facial injury during a game in 2000 that would forever change his career and life. Flory was pitching for the Boston Red Sox when he was struck in the face by a line drive hit by the New York Yankees' Ryan Thompson. The ball was said to have traveled at high speed, hitting Flory directly in the cheekbone and eye area. This left an immediate and damaging impact. Flory suffered multiple broken bones in his face from the hit, including fractures to his cheekbone, eye socket, and jaw. The damage also led to significant injury to his eye, causing vision problems and permanent eye damage. In the aftermath of the incident, Flory underwent several surgeries to repair the broken bones and address the eye injury, but despite the medical intervention, he was left with partial vision loss and lasting complications from the traumatic injury. While Flory made a comeback, pitching in 7 games in 2001, he was eventually released by the Red Sox in mid-season, and later went on to play for the minor league Sacramento River Cats in 2002 and the Albuquerque Isotopes in 2004. In a later interview, Flory revealed that he could still foresee a good future for his baseball career, adding that since the vision is still intact, then he'll definitely be fine. Similar to how Flory showed so much courage despite his injury, this next player also had the same attitude after his shocking injury. Kirby Pucket. Kirby Pucket, one of the most famous figures in baseball history, faced a terrifying and career-altering moment on September 28, 1995, when he was hit in the face by a fastball during a game. This incident left him with a shattered jaw and also forced him to miss the rest of the season. But here's the shocking part. Despite this devastating injury, Pucket remained resilient and returned to spring training in 1996, seemingly ready for a comeback. However, tragically, just as he was regaining his momentum, Pucket woke up one morning unable to see with his right eye. According to him, he had woken up next to his wife that morning, and he couldn't see her. Pucket was later rushed to Baltimore to see a specialist at Johns Hopkins, and doctors diagnosed him with glaucoma, a condition that could not be corrected even after several surgeries. 3.5 months later, Pucket announced his retirement from baseball in July 1996 after a stellar 12-season career with the Minnesota Twins. He had played in 2 World Series championships, was a 10-time All-Star, and also received numerous accolades for his contributions both on and off the field. Although Pucket's injury and subsequent health issues became a painful chapter in his life, they didn't overshadow his remarkable achievements in baseball. Post-retirement, he remained active in the community, dedicating his time to charity work and raising awareness for glaucoma. Interestingly, Pucket claimed in a later interview that he still wanted to play even after his injury. While Pucket couldn't make a comeback, this next player was able to return to the game after a similar injury. Tony Conigliaro. During the Red Sox impossible dream season of 1967, Tony Conigliaro was hit in the face by a pitch, causing him a severe eye injury. Conigliaro's career, once filled with promise and talent, took a tragic turn on August 18, 1967, when he was struck in the face by a pitch. The 22-year-old Boston Red Sox slugger, who had already established himself as a rising star with 100 home runs under his belt, faced Jack Hamilton of the California Angels at Fenway Park. During his at-bat, Hamilton's fastball veered inside and hit Conigliaro directly on the left side of his face. The impact was catastrophic. The pitch fractured Conigliaro's cheekbone and dislocated his jaw, but the most severe damage was to his left eye. He suffered a retinal injury that led to permanent damage to his vision. After the hit, the young outfielder was immediately rushed to the hospital, where his injuries were assessed. His face was bruised and swollen, and at that point, his fate was uncertain. Conigliaro missed the remainder of the 1967 season, which was particularly heartbreaking because the Red Sox were in the midst of their impossible dream pennant chase. Although the player had displayed remarkable resilience and returned to the game in 1969, his vision problems persisted and he struggled to perform at his previous level. While Conigliaro's injury ruined his career, this next player suffered a much greater loss. Adam Greenberg. Adam Greenberg was an American professional baseball outfielder for the Chicago Cubs and Miami Marlins of Major League Baseball. He had a thriving career in baseball until disaster struck on the 9th of July 2005 after he was hit in the head in his Major League debut on the very first pitch of his first plate appearance. In his first plate appearance against the Florida Marlins, Greenberg faced pitcher Valerio de los Santos and was unfortunately hit by the first pitch, which was a 92 mph fastball. The ball struck Greenberg in the back of the head, just above the neck, and the impact was so bad that he immediately dropped to the ground, clutching his head in pain. The injury was severe because Greenberg had suffered a compound skull fracture and a concussion, leading to lingering symptoms such as dizziness, headaches, nausea, and blurred vision. These symptoms reportedly persisted for years, making it nearly impossible for him to continue playing baseball at a high level. Greenberg's injury made him one of 2 players in league history to be hit by a pitch in their only plate appearance without ever taking the field. Luckily, in 2012, a successful online petition drive helped him secure a one-day contract with the Miami Marlins. Greenberg was able to get 1 at-bat for the Marlins and struck out on 3 pitches. He also agreed to a minor league contract with the Baltimore Orioles for 2013, although that option wasn't eventually pursued. Despite the odds, Greenberg displayed remarkable resilience and determination, and just as he was able to make a comeback, this next player also got a second chance: Steve Joerger. On the 6th of September 1976, Steve Joerger was in the on-deck circle when the batter's bat shattered and the sharp end of the broken barrel pierced him in the neck. After the broken piece pierced his neck, Joerger collapsed immediately. Initially, as he laid on the ground bleeding, he thought the bat had hit him in the shoulder. It was later that he found out he had actually been hit on the neck. Seeing Joerger on the ground, Bill Buehler, as well as other teammates, ran towards him, and one of them used a towel to cover the bleeding neck wound. Although Buehler was able to remove the largest piece of the bat from Joerger's neck, 9 other splinters remained embedded in his wound. These remaining pieces of the bat were eventually removed in a 98-minute surgery. According to the doctors who attended to Joerger, the broken bat missed his brachial plexus, his windpipe, and his neck artery, even though he still suffered a punctured esophagus. Joerger was hospitalized for a few days, and, amazingly, he returned to the team 3 weeks later and even played in 7 of his team's 8 final games, starting 3 of them. Interestingly, while Joerger's injury happened when he was batting, the baseballer still asked Buehler to devise some sort of protection for his neck. This resulted in the catcher's throat guard, which is now sometimes called a billy goat. This piece of plastic attaches to the bottom of the catcher's mask and is now also worn by umpires, as well as in almost all youth leagues worldwide. Similar to Joerger's injury, this next player was also seriously injured by a broken bat: Tyler Culvin. On September 19, 2010, Tyler Culvin, then a rookie outfielder for the Chicago Cubs, experienced one of the most frightening incidents in baseball history. During a game against the Florida Marlins, Culvin was on third base when his teammate Wellington Castillo hit a pitch with a maple bat. As Castillo made contact, the bat shattered, sending a sharp piece of wood flying through the air. The sharp end of the bat spun down the third base line before hitting Tyler in the chest and falling out. Unknown to him, the broken piece of that bat had not only punctured a hole in his skin, but also his left lung, which deflated as a result. At first, the people present didn't really realize how badly he'd been punctured by the bat. Many thought it was just a bad cut, but it turned out there was a real risk to Tyler's lungs. After the incident, Cubs assistant athletic trainer Ed Halber began to put pressure on the wound with a towel. He also escorted Tyler to the dugout and then to the clubhouse before the player was taken to a nearby hospital. At the hospital, it was discovered when the bat punctured Tyler's lung, only a few inches from his heart, it allowed air into the space between his lung and chest wall. This caused the doctors to insert a chest tube to prevent his lung from collapsing. They also monitored him closely. After his treatment, Tyler spent most of that offseason doing breathing exercises to get his lung back to full capacity. Already, the incident had ended his season prematurely, as doctors advised against any strenuous physical activity during his recovery. However, despite the frightening experience, Culvin still displayed a positive attitude, expressing gratitude that the injury wasn't more severe. Although Tyler's injury was terrifying, this next player appeared to have had one of the most shocking injuries of all time: Ray Chapman. In 1920, Ray Chapman was hit in the head by a pitch thrown by Carl Mays during a Major League Baseball game. Mays had reportedly thrown a high fastball at a time when Chapman was crouched over the plate. According to him, he thought the ball hit the handle of Chapman's bat, but it wasn't until later, when he saw umpire Connolly calling to the stands for a physician, that he realized he had hit Chapman in the head. After the hit, Chapman was rushed to the hospital where he was immediately operated on by Dr. T.M. Merrigan, the surgical director of the institution at the time. He had arrived at the hospital unconscious, and despite efforts to save him, Chapman died 12 hours after the accident. According to the surgeon, the blow had caused a depressed fracture 3.5 inches long in Chapman's head. He noted that he had removed a piece of skull about 1.5 inches square, and also found that Chapman's brain had been so severely damaged that blood clots had formed. The shock of the blow had damaged the brain not only on the left side of the head where the ball struck, but also on the right side where the shock of the blow had forced the brain against the skull. While describing the incident, manager Miller Huggins of the Yankees believed Chapman's left foot may have been caught in the ground in a way that prevented him from stepping out of the ball's way. He explained that most times, batsmen usually had one foot loose and free at just such moments, adding that even Chapman himself had gotten out of the way of that same kind of pitched balls before. Similar to Chapman's accident, this next player also suffered a very terrifying injury. Doc Powers. On April 12, 1909, Powers was injured during the first game played in Philadelphia's Shibe Park after he crashed into a wall while chasing a foul pop-up. He was both a licensed physician as well as an accomplished ball player who played for the Louisville Colonels and Washington Senators of the National League, as well as the Philadelphia Athletics and New York Highlanders of the American League. On the day of his accident, Powers was beginning his 11th MLB season in the starting lineup for the Athletics. According to online sources, during the first play of the game, he crashed into a wall at full speed while chasing a foul pop fly. But surprisingly, despite the injury, Powers stayed in the game and even got a base hit. He insisted on finishing the game, going 1 for 4, after which he was immediately taken to the hospital. Sadly, unknown to Powers, he had sustained internal injuries from the collision. According to physicians, the baseball player was suffering from a condition known as intussusception, a life-threatening condition that occurs when part of the intestine folds into the next section, blocking the flow of food and fluids. After this was discovered, Powers underwent immediate emergency surgery, and more than a foot of gangrenous intestines were removed from the body. 2 weeks after his surgery, Powers died from complications from his 3 intestinal surgeries. It was reported that the immediate cause of his death was peritonitis, which had resulted from post-surgery infections. While Powers had lost his life due to the injury that he sustained, this next player managed to escape death. Juan Encarnacion. Juan Encarnacion, an outfielder for the St. Louis Cardinals, suffered a devastating and career-ending injury during a game against the Cincinnati Reds in 2007. This happened less than a year after celebrating the 2006 World Series championship with his teammates. Before the tragic incident, Juan was standing in the on-deck circle, preparing for his at-bat, when teammate Aaron Miles hit a foul ball. The ball veered sharply and struck Juan directly in the left eye. Immediately, the player collapsed, laying face down and not moving for several long moments as the stadium grew silent. The trainers rushed to assist him, and he was quickly taken to a nearby hospital, where doctors determined he had suffered multiple fractures to the orbital bone and severe damage to his eye socket. Sadly, Juan's physician noted that his injury was one of the worst facial injuries he had ever seen. He described Juan's eye socket as an eggshell with multiple cracks. The doctor noted that there were multiple fracture lines and pieces of bone that were broken, and the way they could fix that was to put a plate on it and reconstruct the socket so it's smooth again. Juan's injury caused permanent vision loss in his left eye, effectively ending his baseball career at just 31 years old. The tragic incident was not only devastating for the baseball player, but also for his teammates and fans, who watched in shock as the accident unfolded. Recently, a Reddit user shared the footage that captured the moment Juan was hit with a foul ball, and the very details of this are still quite terrifying. While the MLB is filled with moments of triumph and joy, there are also moments of sadness and unexpected tragedy. These moments have not only been marked in history, but also in the hearts of fans, friends, and families. What are your thoughts on these scary MLB injuries? Let me know in the comments section. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, then be sure to click on this next card on your screen.